might have heard of urban exploration, or as it is known to some as simply urbex. It's basically just bored teenagers sneaking around in abandoned buildings and other places they shouldn't be. I decided to go urban exploring alone at an old run-down Chester's Kid Zone that had gone out of business during the COVID-19 pandemic. I know that you really shouldn't go urbexing alone. Getting in was relatively easy. Hobos and street thugs had already broken the windows, leaving large, gaping holes to gain entry. When I entered, there was a horrible, acrid smell that blended the smell of various animal excreta and the smell of rotting flesh. Rats and cockroaches were dining on whatever food was left over in the building, and there was stagnant water all over the floor. I noticed that the place was pretty well picked over. It seemed like vandals and looters had pretty much wrecked the entire place. Blame the damn 2020 racial riots. I was wandering around in the building, noticing the decrepit state of the place. It's amazing how fast everything decays when it isn't maintained. The numerous coin-operated games had been broken into, and it was obvious that any copper wiring or electronic parts had been stripped off. There really wasn't any interesting graffiti or much to document, and I was getting ready to leave and call it a wash when I heard a strange humming sound that seemed like some sort of crazed siren's lullaby. I quickly noticed that the sound was coming from a ball pit, and I began searching the ball pit, hoping to find some sort of old electronics that I might be able to preserve. I found no such device after digging through the ball pit, but did discover a floor drain beneath the ball pit that seemed big enough for a person to fit into. I heard the noise down in the drain and decided to explore further. I lifted off the drain cover and slipped down into the drain. Now this was amazing. I had found a way into what seemed like a storm drainage system. There were crawl-through pipes extending in multiple directions, just ready to explore. I then heard a strange humming sound from down in the drain, and heard a sound not much unlike an alligator moving through the water. I knew very well that alligators don't hum, and I was very curious about the creature that might be making the sound. As I explored the pipe, I noticed a strange area that had once been used for maintenance equipment storage. In this area was what looked like some sort of nest made from old children's clothing and shoes. There were piles of bones in the room and what looked like dead rats. I then heard the humming sound from down in the sewer, and the hum then turned into a shrill screech. I knew that whatever was down there was very upset with my presence in what I assumed was its lair. I fled from the lair to get into the pipe, and I tried to hightail it back to the drain, but blocking my path was this horrible abomination. The creature was covered with pus-filled sores, and its teeth had developed into very sharp fangs. Its head was as big as its torso and was attached by a deformed noodle-like neck. 2/3 of its face was covered by a giant mouth, and its eyes stuck out of its skull. The creature had deformed arms that looked like flippers and little tiny webbed hands on its arms. Its legs were replaced by a long tail, and a weird, slimy gill-like organ was attached to its belly by a worm-like appendage. The creature seemed to not notice me, and I tried to slink through the pipe to a manhole somewhere. I did not know where I was going, and I came to a pipe junction and fell 7 or 8 feet to the level below, landing on my feet and then slipping to fall on my back with a loud thud. This immediately caused the creature to sense my weakness and lunge after me. I was really scraped up by the fall, and I knew that this creature could smell blood. I tried to crawl through the pipe as best as I could with this creature following me. I then realized I had to shoot this thing. I had to kill this creature. I then drew my pistol and tried to shoot the creature. The first shot didn't seem to faze it, and it made a loud, horrendous shriek. The second shot got it knocked down and writhing in pain, screaming all sorts of horrible shrieking sounds. I then fired a third shot, which struck the thing silent and I presume finally killed that horrible beast. I was then able to make my way to the exit from the storm drain where it came out in a creek. I immediately called the police to report the strange creature, and when the detectives arrived, they were able to locate the carcass. They were unable to identify just what this creature was, but its remains were taken to the University of Oregon for further research. Biologists were able to determine that the creature had human DNA, but it had had a very defective gestation. The last I heard about the case was that federal agents had removed the carcass from the University of Oregon lab, and I was soon visited by men in black telling me not to disclose anything about the incident. I printed off hundreds of copies of this, and I left them in places like libraries and schools, and I left some in more places where it would be a little surprise. You can't shut me up. This is all over the place. You can't silence me. Take that, feds. This is something that we should all know about. This creature fits the description of the sewer seal, which was associated with various disappearances of children in ball pits. There are obviously more of these things out there. There are things that the government does not want us to know about. Things that they cannot control or explain. Remember that whenever you see a storm drain, a sewer seal could be beneath your feet.